Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis updated commodities, work our way through the dollar yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinions as we go, and if you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I dive deeper into the sectors and the companies on how to play this commodity bull market. I go over dividend stocks and stuff like that, setting up a dividend portfolio of a bunch of dividend companies or companies that are more growth oriented. We do have the May Day coupon that's still active at this time. So let's dive in here and take a look and see what's going on today, and I'll share my opinions. So DXY, that's what we start with, the dollar, the relative strength indicator. We're in this big uptrend channel on the longer term. We've broken through to the upside of the shorter term pattern here. And we've got in the short term, you could consider this a potential break to the downside of this rising wedge formation. We could break to the downside in the short term. A little bit longer time frame. We are still bullish because we've broken the bigger picture there to the upside. So we have some short-term weakness that is developing and most likely going to head lower in a bigger picture view. Now, yields are going to be a big driver of this. And that's where it gets a little bit difficult to project if you get yields going up and dollar going down, which could be the case because it depends on the strength of other currencies. But DXY looks like it could fall under a little bit of pressure here to the downside. 2-year yield, we were down about 0.5% today, but more or less, we've just been trading sideways. It's in a very tight pattern or channel. You know, this little channel, and I didn't draw it perfectly, but we're in a tight channel trading sideways in a larger, bigger structure, which could be a 3-hump consolidation before a breakout. It could also break to the downside. So again, we'll monitor it. We'll see what happens. And in the short term, we could still get some downside pressure. 10-year yield also selling off a little bit today. It doesn't look like a reversal candlestick to me, and we could still go higher. Momentum's upward, just a small down candlestick, and that's all we could muster today. So that's one to watch, see if the momentum can carry forward. And the 30-year is doing the same thing, just a small down candlestick, not a reversal candlestick. It's not any dark cloud cover, bearish piercing, bearish engulfing. None of that is exhibited. And again, we've got those bigger patterns that have been squeezing up here. Something on the lines of that is my guess. So we've got weaker dollar, and we've got the 2-year yield that could maybe come down a little bit. And then we'll have to see what occurs from there. TYX, TNX ratio, it's uninverting to some degree. It's heading up a little bit. That's generally a little bit of a tailwind behind precious metals. The more this comes up, that is the precious metals kind of era of doing very well. Then when you turn, that's when they lag, specifically gold. So right now we're in a good location for gold to outperform over the next year or two. Bond prices, we were up today, but we had a shellacking the past 2 trading sessions there. Absolute rip lower. So we could get a bounce here at support, and then we'll have to see what that bounce looks like. If it's a weak bounce, we could easily roll over and move lower. If we move lower, that's yields going up. If we break this bigger pattern to the upside, that's yields going down. And right now, we don't have a clear direction necessarily of which direction it's going to go. And we may trade sideways for longer as yields and bond prices consolidate to the end or to the tip over here. The 2 and 10, we have uninversion of the yield curve, and that still looks good and game on. But some of this uninversion here was with yields, the long end, moving up dramatically. We'll see if the uninversion continues and if yields either break to the upside or downside. I don't think we're going to have a recession necessarily if yields are ripping to the upside versus historical ones where it was the yield dropping like a rock that had the yield curve uninvert. So I guess it depends on the inversion or uninversion of the curve and if the curve is moving up or down. But sometimes it moves up before the move lower, is what I'll say. So we'll watch it together and we'll keep going through it. Gold up a little bit, and to me this looks like a good setup. It doesn't look bad. We have a bullish engulfing here, which is good, and then no selling pressure after it. That makes me think that when you're up against resistance like this, that it wants to try to break. We'll see if we can break out of this falling wedge here, but it looks good in my opinion. Silver, it's up, and we're up against that resistance level, and we're trying to break through. We'll see if we break through. This one doesn't have the bullish engulfing or anything before it. We had a little bit of momentum coming down, so you could say that this is still kind of in a bearish setup, and we're up against resistance, but I wait for the next trading session to see if it's a big down day or a big up day. It'll tell us which direction we may go in the short term. Platinum up 2.5%, and we're still below that pesky resistance trend line that I want to see break. So we're still underneath it, trying to break through it. Palladium, on the other hand, breaking through its downtrend line to the upside. So looking pretty good there for Palladium and that break to the upside there. So we could see this move on up here. We might get a little bloody nose tomorrow, a little small down day before that occurs, but it looks pretty solid, bouncing off this support level. And we'll see if there's any follow through or running with it. GDX up a little bit, and we are above that trend line, so I'm looking for a move higher. We could see gold and silver break out of those falling wedges, and the miners break out with it. GDXJ has a similar setup in the short term, and SILJ also same setup. XTU to gold ratio, we were up a little bit, where gold and silver mining companies outperformed gold, although gold was mainly flat today. This still looks absolutely excellent for a move higher with time. Crude oil down just a hair today, and that is that bloody nose characteristic where we launched through potentially this downtrend line. You get a little bit of resistance, and we'll see if the momentum can continue here. It's important because if we get a breakout in oil, we're probably going to break yields to the upside. It would be my guess, and we'll see if we get that momentum follow through. TTF gas still moving sideways in that channel, and it's still in a bearish formation, or bullish formation, sorry. Natural gas in America down a little bit, got kind of this pullback here, and we'll see if that continues, but overall, we're at a very low point for natural gas at $2.50 or so. Pretty cheap, it's not expensive. And still has a bullish formation to work its way on up over time. Our boy XOP, yeah, you know me, it's up 0.4%, but we're up against that trend line. Have not broken out yet. So we've got a bullish engulfing here and here. We got two of them in a row, and not much selling pressure. Makes me think we want to run here. That's what I would say. And we're up against that neckline of an inverted head and shoulders. So we'll see if we can get a run here and get moving to the upside. OIH up 0.42% today and breaking. We're still above that trend line, sitting right above it. We'll see if we can get some traction and momentum to the upside here. Come on, oil. We've got Newcastle coal futures. This looks really good. I think it looks really good. So we have a broken downtrend line there. We zoom in, and I'll just throw some more stuff up here. We've got kind of this formation going on here. Kind of a falling wedge. If I were to put this here, maybe you guys can see it a little bit better there. There's that falling wedge there, roughly. And this does look pretty good. We'll see if we can break to the upside and start running. So I think it looks pretty good. And let's see if we can get a little bit of a run going here for coal. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, we are up today, 1.58%. We've been just chucking sideways here. We'll see if we can gain some traction here to the upside or if we're going to break to the downside. But I would be looking for an upside little bounce here, see if it can put something together. We do have support if we kind of look left, right, going through here at all these levels. UX1, this is the uranium futures pricing, still inside of its falling wedge. And again, I wouldn't bet against this, guys. I think we could break higher at any point. I wouldn't be bearish. I would be bullish. URA, although it looks, we're down today and looks a little bit dire, but we're up against support, and we'll see if the support holds. We've got URNM also down a little bit. It is consolidating, and we're right at support. We'll see if that support holds. And URNJ in a similar situation, right at a lot of support through here. We'll see if it holds. We've got copper up slightly, but the momentum is still to the downside. And I think if yields continue higher, which they may or may not, we could see some pressure. If yields were to drop, this is one that's very sensitive to yields in the economy. We could see it eventually work its way on up if yields come on back. COPX moving on up a little bit, and this still looks like a very good formation. Some people are probably looking at this like it's this, shoulder head shoulder with the neckline through here, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see where this goes. We do have some downside pressure coming up and not much of a bounce, which is the only thing I'll say against it. So there could be some more downside pressure. But the formation can go either direction, and we'll have to see. Iron ore down a little bit, but still looks good to me. That's a double bottom. This is like a big accumulation cylinder or megaphone pattern, and we could work our way onto this bottom here to the upside. Again, I think it's interest rate sensitive on a lot of this stuff, so just watch it. Aluminum down slightly, working sideways. It's trying to base here, so we'll see if we can get some momentum to the upside. Nickel moving sideways, still looking all right, and yeah, we're right there at support-ish, looking back this way. Mu slightly higher, right at support, and let's see if that support holds. If it doesn't, we'll go back into the pattern here. We might hit down here if it does not hold. We've got emerging markets up slightly. I know we had a little bit lower yields. That looks good. Now, if yields drop here and the dollar drops, we're going. We are going. And I think a bunch of stuff's going to go up if that's the case in commodities. So we got to watch yields. We got to watch the 2-year and the 10-year. And they don't look weak at the moment. They look kind of strong, but we had a weak day today, and that's why we were up today. Carry also moving on up. And again, guys, we could have yields drop, and this could all keep going. But again, that's the one we want to watch. 2-year, 10-year. But what's the relationship between the two? And then these assets will get priced accordingly to that. TAN still down, momentum's down. Lithium working its way sideways, still looks kind of weak. We could see further downside pressure here, maybe down to $36 or something like that. We've got REMX still lower, down today, and the momentum is still to the downside. It's trying to put in some sort of bottom, but we'll see if it can do that. I would still be patient here. Baltic Dry Index up 5.3% and still looks really good for a move higher. We've got XHB just slightly lower today. And again, I would be looking for lower if yields continue on up. If yields drop, we'll have to see what it looks like. Home builders don't necessarily trade with stocks. They trade with the real estate market. And if we get lower rates, I would watch housing starts because I think they would come back if rates pull back a good chunk. Russell 2000, it's still working, well, slightly higher today. We back out and we're just in this big, huge pattern here. We've got a long-term trend line underneath, and then we've got this pattern that's consolidating somewhere in that squeezing pattern. S&P 500, it is continuing to work its way on up. Surprisingly, another bullish engulfing. And we're at the top of this squeezing pattern. We'll see where this goes. Rising wedges generally work their way down, but that's not a bearish candlestick that we got today. And then NASDAQ also continuing to move higher in the face of all of these patterns. This looked like we were heading lower, guys. And then out of magic fairy dust pushing it higher. So we are still working our way on up in the NASDAQ. SMCI still up today, 3%, and it's a bullish engulfing, so we'll see if we can work our way on up. NVIDIA is down today, not the most bullish technical setup here, but it's holding on at the moment, and I would still think that this has some pressure, downside pressure on it. Bitcoin down a little bit, and again, this was a tough call. We've got downside pressure, and this bounce, it's not really convincing, at least yet, and this very well could roll over. Think of these as like flag patterns, and your pull is here, and that could easily head lower. And I look for the candlestick in here, and it is somewhat evenly matched. So there's a duel between the buyers and sellers at this price. But the momentum's to the downside at the moment. Coming here to Ethereum, also just tracking sideways at the moment. There we are, breaking through this downtrend line where we could head a little bit higher here in the short term. And I know that doesn't match Bitcoin's chart either. So a little bit of a breaking of the confluence of information there on the short term. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website. If you like, we've got that Mayday coupon where you can get a discount. But that's what we've got for today. And we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.